the end of the day, you judges have the ability to make a difference. Will you uphold the affirmative team's plan, or will you side with justice? Will you side with the side that is for upholding the equal application of the law, saying that whomever is found guilty should not be pardoned for an insignificant reason? And the affirmative team has failed to provide a significant reason. I'm going to be looking over some of the points that were brought up in the last speech, and overall, through that process, looking at 4 main voting issues that I want you to consider as you look at the ballot and check the box of whoever wins this round. And the negative team at the end of the day, I believe, has earned that right, but simply because we uphold the idea of justice, and the affirmative team does not. And we believe that is the highest value in today's debate round. Now, I'd like to be going over 4 main voting issues, really summing up the idea of the negative team and summing up our arguments that have been going on throughout this round. The first is that of an insignificant problem. Now, I found it really interesting that they stated that the U.S. is the glue that keeps these two things together. That apart from that, there would be no effective counterterrorism because the effective counterterrorism is a product of Israel and the PA as a collective joint unit. This is simply not the case. And there's one reason for this. If we look back at the evidence that they stated in their 1AC again, as I read before, it says nothing that of Israel. It simply says, again, quote, the Palestinian Authority continued its counterterrorism and law enforcement efforts in the West Bank. The PA security forces constrained the ability of Hamas and others. The organization to conduct attacks, including through the arrests of Hamas members planning attacks and so on, so on, so on. But simply put, it states that the security forces, the PA security forces, constrained the Hamas. It didn't include anywhere in there the cooperation between Israel and Palestine. Simply put, the PA itself is effective at countering terrorism, therefore upholding the interests that the affirmative team plans to uphold throughout their affirmative case. The interest of the United States is still being upheld, and justice is still being upheld in the current system. We believe that is the viable solution to this case. But looking at my next voting issue, and that is of the ineffective solution. And there are multiple different reasons that this is an ineffective solution. I brought up many different reasons in my point, but I would like to focus on one that was refuted specifically in the last speech, and that is the end-use monitoring. Now, his response to my partner brought up examples such as Lebanon and other examples of this actually being the case, where end-use monitoring is not always worked. However, he stated then that we had provided no evidence that end-use monitoring is effective. Then he himself provided no evidence himself that end-use monitoring is effective either. So this point is simply moot. No one has proved anything regarding to this, and therefore, when a point is moot in this case, the negative team should always win because the affirmative team has the burden of proof to prove their points are substantial. End-use monitoring has not been held in the Palestinian effort. Now, what is the impact of this? The end impact of this point is that we don't know where this aid is going or what it's being used for. We simply do not know. We don't know that if the end is going to be used for a certain counterterrorism operations training. There is nothing guaranteed. Which leads me to my third voting issue, and that is of no net benefit. My partner in his previous speech laid out some different disadvantages, that it would harm the U.S. interests, that abandoning justice simply for U.S. interests is something that the U.S. should not and cannot do in any circumstance. It also said that it would harm U.S. influence, that we would lose our influence regarding this issue. Now, it also said that it would harm justice, and I'll be getting to that in my next voting issue. But I want to focus on those for a moment. And we see that there are disadvantages produced by this case. But in any case, we have to weigh the advantages versus the disadvantages. A case should not be passed if it simply has if the worse is better than what makes it good. So if the disadvantages outweigh the advantages, it's simply illogical to pass this plan. And what we can see is that due to the fact we don't know where these funds are going to, and due to the fact we know that the PA is currently already effective in the current system regardless of this aid, we see that there is no advantage. The impact of this point is that there is no advantage to the current system. There's no advantage by passing their plan. You are simply giving up justice for no U.S. interests upheld. Now, moving on to my final voting issue, and that is of justice. Overall, we can summarize this point by saying this. We should not improve counterterrorism at the expense of justice and at the expense of the morality of the United States. Letting the guilty walk is not justice. And that is exactly what the affirmative team is doing. Thank you.